The question is that the amendment be agreed to.
Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member Ian Lees-Galloway.
Thank you very much, Mr Speaker. New Zealanders who are listening to this debate will find it no surprise whatsoever that Prime Minister John Key has been less than honest about the reasons why we are debating Government Notice of Motion number 1 today relating to the appointment of Tony Ryle to the Intelligence and Security Committee. Because the Prime Minister stood up at a press conference and said that this was all about Peter Dunne not being a minister anymore. And the fact that Peter Dunne was a minister and is no longer a minister has precisely nothing to do with whether or not he should be on the Intelligence and Security Committee. There are already members of that committee who are not ministers. Some of the members are ministers, some of them are not. But that matter is absolutely irrelevant when considering the members who make up the committee. In fact, what the Act actually says is that the committee shall consist of the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition, 2 members of the House of Representatives nominated for the purpose by the Prime Minister following consultation with the leader of each party in government. So, members of the House of Representatives, it doesn't have to be a minister. And actually, I think that clause might actually be starting to get to where the problem is here, because it has to be in consultation with the leader of each party in government. And I wonder if the Prime Minister is doing what everybody else in the country is doing and is no longer recognising Peter Dunne as the leader of a party for parliamentary purposes. Because that's what the standing orders say, is that Peter Dunne is no longer the leader of a party for parliamentary purposes. No. Ruth Dyson says she wonders if they're registered now. No, that is not the case. As far as the Electoral Commission is concerned, there is not currently a party called the United Future Party. And should a party called the United Future Party become registered at some point in the future, that will be a new registration. Now, our standing orders, yes, Peter Dunne has to go out there and find 500 people to sign up to the United Future Party. And what the standing orders of this Parliament say is that if a party is not recognised under the Electoral Act by the Electoral Commission as a political party having 500 members, it is not a political party for parliamentary purposes, and all the perks that come with that. So, given that Peter Dunne is no longer the leader of a party, is essentially here as an independent Member of Parliament, maybe that's why John Key actually decided that he should no longer be on the committee. I wasn't quite sure who the other member of the committee nominated by the Prime Minister is, so I went away and found out who it was. And can anybody guess who the other member nominated by the Prime Minister is on the committee? The Honourable John Banks. The Honourable John Banks. Now, if this is a matter of trust, if this is about who the Prime Minister can trust to be on the Intelligence and Security Committee, I think there are some real question marks over the presence of John Banks on that particular committee. The man who we all know wasn't completely honest, I can't use another word, but he wasn't completely honest about the donations he received in his mayoral campaign and his failed bid to become the mayor of the Auckland super city. And the police had a look at that, and the police pretty much said that he wasn't absolutely honest about where those donations came from. And of course now he is actually in court facing private prosecution about his breaches of the Electoral Act and the fact that he wasn't honest about where his political donations came from. And so I would have thought that if Peter Dunne can't be trusted to be on the Intelligence and Security Committee, maybe we should also be debating the replacement for the Honourable John Banks, who probably oughtn't be on that committee either. For the purposes of folks who are listening at home, they might also be interested to know that the other person on the committee is a person nominated by the Leader of the Opposition, and that person is Russell Norman. And so that's how the committee is made up. So no need to consider whether or not a member is a minister or in the cabinet, but that is what the Prime Minister told New Zealand was the reason, and of course we now know that was John Key, as usual, being less than honest with the public of New Zealand. So we're debating today, sir, whether or not Tony Ryle is an appropriate person to be one of the government's representatives on the Intelligence and Security Committee. Well, looking at Tony Ryle's history here in Parliament and the way he operates, I think he's actually got a few characteristics that make him absolutely appropriate for what is the Spooks Committee of Parliament, because he likes to engage in a bit of the cloak and dagger. He likes to engage in spy operations. As a member of the opposition and as a minister, he's been known to camp out in the emergency departments of our hospitals around the country, undercover, in disguise. Marion Street asks under whose cover. That's a good question. But Tony Ryle has this history of going into the emergency departments disguised as somebody else to see for himself what is going on in the emergency departments. And actually this is extended into behaviour as a minister, which is extraordinary, really. He has been said to text or call any official of whatever rank who he believes to be underperforming. He is an astonishing micromanager of his portfolios. It is said that he has close to 600 phone numbers saved on his phone. He might want to check to make sure that those details are secure, that those 600 people that he has on his phone that their privacy is secure, and that might be an issue that Tony Ryle might want to bring up as a member of the Intelligence and Security Committee. But 600 numbers, because those are all the different DHB CEOs and chairmen and managers and the ministry managers and the ministry officials, the people that he likes to keep a very, very close eye on, because Tony Ryle likes to build little fiefdoms, and the health portfolio is certainly one of Tony Ryle's fiefdoms, over which he has omniscient control, and a man who knows every tiny little detail and likes to control every tiny little detail. So I think Tony Ryle does have some characteristics that lend him to being an appropriate member of this committee. It's fair to say that all his cloak and dagger operations haven't quite gone to plan. He was on Jenny Shipley's side when she stuck the knife in Jim Bolger's back. So that little cloak and dagger operation that Tony Ryle was quite a senior member of, he was one of the lieutenants that brought Jim Bolger down. That was a success. However, following the downfall of Jenny Shipley, he was then an Englishman. And he supported English in his defence against the brash coup, which of course up until the last minute he probably thought he was on the right side of. He was probably doing the numbers along with Nick Smith and thought that English was going to survive that coup, but we all know that the master of the flip-flop, John Key, when he saw his own personal ambitions being tailored to by Don Brash, he made the last-minute change and got Don Brash the leadership back in about 2004 or 5, I think it was, about 2004. So Tony Ryle hasn't always been the greatest operator in the shadows, in that kind of cloak and dagger world that our spy agencies and this committee operates in. but he certainly has experience in that world, and that, I think, lends itself very well to his being on this committee. But, sir, we're of course debating the wrong thing here today. What we ought to be debating is a full inquiry into the operations of the GCSB, and the opposition, sir, won't rest until that is what we are actually debating.
Well said. Well said.
I call the honourable member Clear